Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm Kevin,
We are.
the Signal Brothers. Folks, welcome back to another live podcast with the Signal Brothers. We do appreciate your support and watching. Tell you, it's not easy doing this thing live, right? We don't script it, we don't prep for it. We do prep, we do research, but we don't coach what we say to each other, right, Jim?
Nope.
So what you're seeing is us unfiltered, right, on the fly. I don't know what Jim's going to say. Jim doesn't know what I'm going to say, and as always, right, it can be sometimes we surprise each other with some of the things we say. So as usual, before we get started with our topic, the Save Act today, let's just go through some of the things we always cover in the beginning. First of all opinions expressed are Jim's and Kevin's, and they don't represent our families or employers. So just know that this is strictly from us. Second, we love to take questions about the subject we're covering. So if you have a question, hey, go ahead and pop it in the chat. And as soon as we see it, sometimes we miss it, we don't get to it right away, but we will get to your question or your comment, and we'll talk about it live here on the podcast. You, are you passionate about something that you want to talk about? Let us know. We'd love to get you on the podcast as a guest, right? We'd love to have people on here as a guest. And even if you don't agree with us, that's okay. We still want to have you on here. We want that other perspective, and we'd love to have you. Likewise, if you don't want to be a guest, but there's something you want us to cover, please let us know. We'd be happy to cover it. Put it in the chat, and we'll go ahead and do some research, and uh, we'll cover it. Well, without further ado, Jim, I think it's time to get in to the subject that people are tuning in to talk about. Such a controversial, what seems to be very controversial and ought not to be, and that is the SAVE Act. So, what does it say, Jim?
What does it say? It's mainly focused. We discussed this a little bit beforehand. It's mainly focused on registering to vote. What do you need to register, and who can register? And it's mainly focused on U.S. citizens only. The idea is that, of course, you can only be a U.S. citizen to vote. And the idea stems from a couple of the last elections where it's been contested that many illegals have voted in the elections to the degree that it would actually have an effect on the outcome. And that's what this act is geared to prevent. In my opinion, it goes back to that thing we've talked about before, Kevin. Even if it's not as rampant as claimed, good fences make good neighbors. You know, you put the rules in place, they're followed, and then everybody's good.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been listening to the news on
Uh-huh.
all forms, right? On the networks,
Both
in
sides.
social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I mean, all over. And this is being construed as this terrible monster, and it kills me because I went last night and I looked up on Congress.gov HR 22. So I'd encourage the listeners, if you haven't read, right, there's a summary and then you can read all the detailed text, right? It covers the details of this of this act that they're doing. And so what it's really doing is it's modifying two current things that are already on the books. One is the Real ID Act of 2005, right? And without getting off track, I just think it's ironic. We passed the Real ID Act in 2005, and here we are, got 2026, and people are still fighting getting a real ID, right? It's 21 years old, this act, right? And the other one is the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, right? So what it does is it takes these two acts and amends them, right? And the real focus, Jim, when I looked at this, was on voter registration, right? And when it comes to voter registration, right, it's really about making sure that the people registering to vote are actually citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, today, when you register to vote, you simply have to attest that you are a U.S. citizen, but you don't have to provide any proof. And I did a lot of research on this week, Jim. And here's what I found is that number one, um, there's a lot of misconfusion. There's a lot of confusion between the person registering sometimes, right, and the person who is getting an ID, or because usually today when people go to get a driver's license, they're also registered to vote, right? Sometimes it's a language barrier. And there's a lot of people being registered to vote that are probably not eligible to vote. Not because people are intentionally trying to do things bad. I would say majority of it is just a miscommunication, misunderstanding. Either that, or maybe the person at the DMV is misunderstanding, right, what they said, right? So there's a lot of people ending up on the rolls to vote that are not eligible to vote. In my research, what I did see was that there's very few people that are not eligible to vote that are actually voting. It's such a small percentage of people, right, that are registering to vote and actually vote illegally. It's so small, the small percentage, that it has an insignificant impact on voting. But I don't want to put that aside, because just because it's insignificant today doesn't mean it'll be insignificant tomorrow. So when I read the summary, it says, hey, the bill requires individuals to provide, this is a summary, right? Documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. I think that's pretty valid. Specifically, the bill prohibits states from accepting and processing an application to register to vote in federal election unless the applicant presents documentary proof of citizenship. The bill prohibits states from registering an individual to vote in a federal election at the time the individual applies to register to vote, unless the individual provides documentary proof, right, of citizenship. So, as you know, I work as a election official here in Virginia. We have same-day voting. So, and I'm usually the guy that takes care of the same-day voting. So, if I get someone who shows up same-day voting, I can make sure that they provide proof of citizenship, right? And it says, and this is the most important part, and that's been the big deal, is that each state must take affirmative steps on an ongoing basis to ensure that only U.S. citizens are registered to vote. That's what this is what it's focused on.
Makes sense to me.
I can't understand all the pushback. And it also says additional states must remove non-citizens from their official list of eligible voters.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple of comments too. Rick makes a couple of good points, and actually those are going to be addressed here in a little bit, because it's not just registering illegal immigrants, but dead people, which would be part of where they're purging the rolls. And there's a lot of states actually fighting that right now. And the Star ID, we're going to talk about the Real ID, because this expands on the Real ID requirements, which, yes, it can be used in lieu of a passport. We'll get to that here in a minute.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing about the Real ID is even people who are here legally as residents can get a Real ID.
Yeah.
So the Real ID alone does not establish your ability to be a U.S. citizen to register.
Well, there are many states that are actually allowing illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses, business licenses, trucking license. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, but not a Real ID, right?
Right.
Not a Real ID. So the key is the Real ID, because I went and read the Real ID.
You've got to prove citizenship on the Real ID.
Right. So even resident aliens can get a Real ID, right? A resident alien, a green card holder can get a Real ID. So the key is, in order to register to vote, you need to provide proof of citizenship. When you go to the polls, you should show ID verifying you are who you say you are. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. I mean, what function in life does anybody do today where they don't have to show some form of ID? And you can't even rent an apartment.
Yeah. So this is the thing that kills me, is what do I need ID for today?
Literally,
I need it to buy cough medicine.
Yes. Spray paint.
I need it to drive the vehicle.
Yeah, we did that session on ID, was one of our first podcasts. And it's like, there's places you can't buy a spray paint unless you show your ID.
100%.
And I mean, they're part of the misinformation they're throwing out there is just say, 21 million Americans don't have ready access to their identifications. Like, what do these 21 million Americans do? Are they all living on the street because they can't rent an apartment because they have no ID? I mean, where is all this coming from? You have to have ID to do everything. Let's talk about some of the things you need ID for.
Yeah. You need it to buy spray paint, need to buy medication, need it to drive, You need it
cigarettes,
to buy alcohol. You need it to buy tobacco. You need it to fly. If you go into a lot of government buildings today, you need an ID, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. And let me tell you, I am not oblivious to the fact that there are people out there today, Jim, that don't have ID. And so one thing I would say is part of the thing that we should be doing is making sure states help everybody get an ID. Why should you not have an ID?
Yeah. I mean, anything you do. I mean, I can't believe there's 21 million Americans that have access to no form of documentation about who they are. That's crazy. But if you want to go back to this, does that really? I don't think it's 21 million, but I don't think it's a big enough number where it will make an impact on the elections anyway. Plus, to be honest, if those people that don't have ID are probably in a state where they don't care about the vote anyway. You know, if you're living on the street and you're worried about eating today, voting is the last thing on your mind.
What? But I agree. Every U.S. citizen should have the opportunity to vote. I'm a big proponent of it. That's why I'm an election official, Jim. Right?
Yeah.
So
they should have, but they have to make that choice. If they choose to not put forth that effort, anything you do, you've got to put forth some effort. There's got to be some accountability. There's got to be some culpability. You've got to be able to make some effort to do this. And if you're just laying around waiting for somebody to come to you to help you give you that ID. Now, if you go to them and say, hey, I need help getting an ID, yes, we should have something in place to help them do this. But if they're not going to go all down the street, knocking on doors, turning over cardboard boxes, say, hey, do you want an ID? I mean, there's got to be some culpability there. And again, I go back to if you don't care about, getting an ID, you don't care about voting. Those people aren't voting anyway.
Yeah. So we got a comment here from Robert Robinson. He said there are sectors of society on both sides of the aisle that believe the government, believe in government registration, ID, etc. For one reason or other, right? Yeah. That they don't believe in being registered. That's okay.
That's fine. Right? That's a choice.
That's a choice. We all make choices.
If they choose not to be registered, they're also choosing not to vote. Therefore, they're not figuring into the overall picture here. Anyway.
Right. And I would think, so you brought up the number of 21 million. But Robert did agree, right? But I would say this. I would say the percentage of those 21 million who don't want to register, right, are probably a small percentage of the 21 million, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a right to not get an ID. But what I am saying is that we should make sure that everybody that wants to vote, wants to have ID, should have that ability to get ID.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
The Democrats are big about pushing all kinds of programs out there to help people. So why not push a program, right? And I'd be good if they amended this bill to jam it through the Senate, right? That allowed funding available for the states to go out and help people to get rides to the facilities, to help them get documentation and get them registered so they have an ID. I would be all for that.
I would be all for that too. And there are many, and I'm sure this is a local community thing or a state to state thing, but there are folks that will pick you up and take you to the polls. I mean, there are people that, if you're working for Senator so-and-so who's running for re-election, they want you at the polls. They will take their van out and they will pick you up. But of course, this is not widespread. It's all very unofficial. They do it themselves. There's no federal funding for it. So yeah, if they want to throw something like that into this bill, I'm all for it.
Me too. And I think it would be good because I don't want those 21 million people disenfranchised from voting. Right. So, but the nonsense that it's going to stop women from voting because they get married and change their name
is
give me a break. Those words are being said to put fear and to make people be against this whole act. And what is the proof? I read the damn bill, right? Yeah. It's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
Nonsense, Jim. I don't want to hear that.
If you've gone through the process of getting married, you've gone through the process of getting your marriage certificate, haven't changed your name, Social Security, it needs to be changed on your Social Security. If you choose not to change it, that's again on you. But you think about it, they don't have the option. If you got married and changed your name, you obviously have that documentation handy.
100%. You're still
That
a
is-
U.S. citizen. Can you still prove you're a U.S. citizen? The answer is yes, to register.
That has got to be one of the biggest straight in your faces lies I have ever heard the government tell in my life.
And Jim, if we got this wrong, I'm happy for somebody to come explain to me how I got this wrong.
Absolutely.
And I'll listen. I will shut up and listen. But from reading the bill that they are pushing through, I can't see it. I can't see it at all. So, I mean, it's just crazy. So the one thing that's a big deal for me about this act is the cleanup of state rules. You know, I briefly touched this on the opening, Jim. If you look at the number of, wow, we're getting a bunch of comments, so we'll get to those in just a second. Looks like we got 2 comments in.
Yeah.
The cleanup of state rolls, right? I think that's so important. Texas, over several years, cleaned up 1 million voters off of their rolls, right? And other states have been cleaning up 60 in the past couple of months. 16,000 people cleaned up on rolls. I think that's good, right?
Yeah.
This should be a proactive process that forces the states to clean up the rolls. People pass away, right? Need to come off the rolls.
I'm good with doing it once every 2 years, right before a major election. You don't have to do this.
And there are green card holders that become citizens, right? That should have the right to vote, right? And so putting these processes in place to make sure the rolls are correct, I think that's a great thing to do. We shouldn't let them get stagnant.
Absolutely.
So we got a couple things.
Yeah.
Ponytail jumped in here and said enhanced driver's license issued in Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Vermont, and Washington. These denote U.S. citizenship and are valid for land and sea border crossings. Well, those are great because those are valid, right, for registering to vote to prove your citizenship.
Yeah.
And then Robert came back and said that's exactly it. Counseling to work through attaining problematic birth certificates, and subsidizing ID attainment so cost doesn't become a gateway or bar to voting. 100%.
That will
right?
fall
I want
into
everybody to vote.
Yeah, and fall into the state assistance programs, that kind of thing. Where I mean, if you can get on public assistance of any type, that should be part of the you're applying for public assistance, that you have the IDs necessary to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
One of the incoming questions, hey, you have it, or maybe even a program like you send out a questionnaire once a year, or when it's renewal time.
Yeah.
Because you got to renew your public assistance on a regular basis. I guess it varies by state to state, but I think it was in Ohio, it was once every few years. I can't remember what it was when we were on it when I was a kid. But yeah, that should be a standard question. And then if that's standard question, then the next time you go in, they have somebody there, or they can take you somewhere. Absolutely. I mean, whatever they need to do.
100%. 100%. And let me tell you, as an election official here in Virginia, in Stafford County, Virginia, right? We go through training every time. Every time we have to go through 2 hours of mandatory training, right? And the one message that is said every single time is our role as an election official is to ensure that every person eligible to vote gets to cast a valid vote, right? That's the training is focused on making sure that people that want to vote can vote, right? And there's a lot of situations that come up when people show up at the polls. Like in Virginia, I can't speak for every state. In Virginia, you have to vote in the precinct that you belong to. You can't go to another precinct. You know your kid's got a soccer game across town, so you want to go into another poll that day. You can't do it. You have to vote in the precinct, at least in Virginia, right? That you're registered in. So, and here's the other thing: is we get people come in that are same day registrations. We take care of them, right? We have people that make a mistake on the ballot. And we have a process to take care of when they make a mistake on the ballot to issue new ballot, right? We're not there to say, oh, you screwed up. Sorry, you can't vote. No, our job as election officials is to make sure every single person that is eligible to vote gets to vote. So those people that show up in the wrong precinct, guess what we do? We help them. We say, hey, here's where you got to go to vote. The problem is some people show up 15 minutes before the polls close and they get pissed off, right? That they have to go across town and they know they're not going to make it in time. But that is part of the Virginia laws for voting is you have to vote in your precinct. And like I said, every state's different. Some of the stuff is federalized, but there's a lot of unique state nuances about voting.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever tried to go to somewhere. The only thing we've done is we've early voted, and if you vote early, then you just go to your local election place and vote there. It may not be your assigned voting area, region, district, county, whatever, but if you go to your local, but I've never tried to actually vote outside of my district.
Yeah. And let's be one thing about the SAVE Act and reading the SAVE Act. It does not prevent mail-in ballots. It does not stop the mail-in ballots. It stops mass collection of mail-in ballots, but it doesn't stop you from mail-in ballots because the focus is on registering to vote.
Yeah, that was another fear tactic is now all of a sudden, people, serving in the military aren't going to be able to vote. People living overseas aren't going to be able to vote. And that's not the case.
It's not. It's not. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today, Jim, because I'm tired of all the crazy comments that are out there. Right. That's why I wanted to cover this topic, right? Because I am for this act, 100% for this act. I'm also for making sure everybody gets to vote that's eligible to vote, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, if you're in that, it's a privilege, which is why you lose it when you're a convicted felon.
Yeah,
you're stripped of that right. It is a right, and every American citizen has that right.
So there was, and we'll get into it in a minute. There's a thing about poll. I'll get into the poll here in a second. But the one thing we do need to talk about is, and we have it on here, there are Democrats requiring ID to show up at events, but they're not for ID when it comes to voting. And I cannot understand that, right?
They also love to put up walls and fences and borders that,
oh my God. I read about this and I said, wait a second now. How is it that Senator John Ossoff is mandating ID to show up at his campaign events? He's against, right? Voter ID.
The hypocrisy is just...
The hypocrisy is crazy. And then for the Democratic National Convention, right? If you wanted to go to the Democratic National Convention that happened in 24, you had to show ID to get in.
Yeah. It's ludicrous. And the thing is, nobody calls them on this. And their constituents are like, okay.
And so the hypocrisy kills me. And understand, while I am a conservative, definitely conservative leaning, I'll call out conservatives for being double standard as well.
I can't stand for
I just want to be very clear about that, right?
I don't care
right now we're calling out Democrats, but I'll call out a Republican for being flip-flopping and being wishy-washy as well.
Yeah, I'm a Republican. I really don't like the terms conservative and liberal. I'm a Republican, but I can't stand hypocrisy. I don't care where it's at. If you're going to say something, be consistent. If you change your mind, you know what? I changed my mind. Okay, I can respect that. I've changed my mind. I've been told I was wrong. I've had it pointed out. Jim, you're being a bit hypocritical. Really, what did I say before? That's what I said. Well, crap. I guess I was wrong that time. No problem at all. I don't care who it is. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. I don't care what side of the line you're on.
Yep. And Tail came in and said about 60% of registered voters actually exercise that privilege. Yeah. And you know what? That's true, Ponytail, but I will tell you in off elections, it's less. It's actually less than that. That's what's scary is when it comes in your local elections, right, where there's nobody at the national level, it's even less. Less people show up to vote. It's scary, right? And who has more impact on your life? You think the federal government has more impact on your life? No, your local elected officials have the most impact on what goes on in your life day to day.
I've had the argument with my kids. It's like, they're doing this that I don't like, they're doing that I don't like. So I said, first of all, the president is not doing this. And where you need to fight your battle is your local, because your local is who is controlling your life for the vast majority of it.
So what's interesting is I looked at pewresearch.org about American polls on voter ID. And it's an interesting, you can Google it, and we won't go into everything, but it says requiring electronic voting machines to, that's fine. Requiring all voters to show government-issued photo ID to vote. 83% of Americans, that's 83% of Americans think you should show a photo ID when you vote.
I've got some cool stats on this when you're done.
Absolutely. Making early and in-person voting available to voters, 80% agree. Making Election Day a national holiday, 74% believe it should be a
Yes,
holiday.
that would affect a lot of those that 40% that don't make it. Those 21 million or those last minute pollers that are the voters that are coming to the polls because they can't get off of work. Absolutely, I am all for it. Federal holiday, everything's closed, but voting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You want to
Allowing
ensure a
people-
strong vote?
Yep. Allowing people convicted of felonies to vote after serving their sentence. 66% of Americans think once they've done their time, they served their time for the crime, they should be allowed to vote. I'm not necessarily against that.
I'm not either. I guess it would depend on the condition of their release and their crime. I'd have to look more into that because I'm on the border there.
Yeah. And Ponytail said conservative Democrats and liberal Republicans.
I have never considered myself a conservative and I've never considered myself a liberal, but I have traits of each. So that's why I don't like those terms. I don't fit into either one of them.
So I'm going to let you take over here in a second. I just got a few more of these to read, Jim. Automatically registering all eligible citizens to vote. 59% of Americans agree that they should. Allowing people to register on election day at the polls, 58%. Allowing any voter to vote by mail if they want to, 58%. So banning groups from collecting completed ballots from a large number of voters in order to return them to official voting centers. 52% oppose and 45% are for. And removing people from registration lists if they have not recently voted or confirmed the registration, 56% oppose and 43% are in favor. So I just want to bring that up because it's interesting, is that go to the top of that, 83% of Americans believe that people should show a photo ID to vote.
We do in Tennessee.
Go ahead, Jim. You had some stats you wanted to bring up.
All right. They're right in line with what you're doing. In fact, I'm glad we're talking the same numbers. House voted and passed the SAVE Act. So these are the stats you were talking about. Polled, and I've seen basically these same numbers everywhere that I've looked. 71% of Democrats, 71% of Democrats are in favor of voter ID, 95% of Republicans, right? And that, of course, averages your 83%. Now, the actual 217 Republicans voted yes. One Democrat, which I was impressed by, 213 against, for a total of 218 for, 213 against. Now, these are our representatives. We elect them. They go to Congress. They're supposed to be representing our interests, right?
They're not listening to the people.
That's where I'm going. Look at this. Is that blocked?
Nope, we see it.
Okay. 83%. There's your 83%, average from that. Now, if you take the same thing, now, if they're representing our interests, those numbers should jive. 95% of Republicans. Republican 217 out of 217 that voted. 100%. That's pretty darn close. That's about where it should be. Look at this. 71% of Democrats. One Democrat voted yes. 0.0047%. They are not there to represent our interests. They are there to represent theirs.
Yep.
And if you look at the numbers and vote, it's almost 50-50.
Yeah.
Like that's not what's being represented by the public polls. They're not promoting our interests at all. They're not representing what we want. They're off the rails. They're doing their own thing. Republicans are close. The Democrat skew is so far beyond what their own people want. That's why generally when I talk bad about Democrats, I'm not talking about the constituent. I'm talking about the people in the government. You know, this to me speaks louder than anything else. It's just they're not doing what their people want, what their people put them in office to do. They're just not doing it.
No, I'm tired of the drama on both sides of the house, because there's some drama on the Republican side of the house too.
There is.
Not necessarily with this, but with other things, right?
Mhm.
And so, it's funny. You and I, before we got on, we were talking about Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania, right? I couldn't stand that guy when they initially elected him. I thought he was the biggest
Exactly.
waste of space, and he's become the most level-headed, common sense guy we have in Congress. He doesn't vote by party. He votes with what makes sense, right? I can get behind a guy like that. Even though he's not a Republican, I can support a guy like that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is voting what more along the lines of what the constituents want.
So Ponytail put a comment in the chat, and she said, mail-in ballots should require a recent utility bill to be attached to help prevent false harvesting. I agree. There's got to be some mechanism to control mail-in ballots, right? I don't know what the right answer is to that, because I'm not the smart guy off the fly, Ponytail.
Well, the thing is, if you mail that in with a copy of your utility bill, they'll just tear the letter up and toss the bill and put the ballot in the pile. I mean, what guarantee? If you got somebody that's willing to cheat or willing to do something behind the scenes or that's not quite legal, I mean, they'll do that too. I agree that there needs to be a better way, but I don't know that would even work.
Yeah. And like I said, being an election official in Virginia, and I can't speak for every county, every state in the United States, because every county is a little bit different. Every state's different, right? But I know what we go through in Virginia. And I'll tell you, in Virginia, they do a pretty damn good job of putting controls in place, right? And I'm really confident. Does that mean that I believe that people that shouldn't vote, and that that votes get counted that ought not to be? No, but I think the percentage of that happening is so small that it's inconsequential. At least in Virginia. I can speak in Virginia.
It goes back to the thing, and you love how you use people's statements against them. They always say the same thing about gun control. If one life was saved, isn't it worth it? Well, if one illegal person was kept out of the polls, isn't it worth it? Plus, you're only talking about those we know of. If there's how many? What was your count earlier? I can't remember what it was. But it was a low count. But if there's 12 we know about, there might be 120 we don't, or larger numbers.
Bring that up. The Second Amendment, Jim, because I'm a big pro Second Amendment guy.
Yeah.
Right. I am for the Second Amendment all the way through. And what I find so ironic is that Democrats are so big about the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They talk about, hey, First Amendment,
First Amendment,
and when it comes to Second Amendment, well, that's a little wishy-washy there, right? No. Well, there's some, we got to put some controls in place.
Yeah. You put down the rights.
Consistent then. Let's be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. You put down the rights you want us to have, and then you put down the amendment that allows us to protect them.
Yeah, and Ponytail had put another comment in the chat about Fulton County had thousands of mail-in ballots that did not have folding creases, like they were sent in via manila folders. As we know, Ponytail is the federal government's gone in there and rounded up a lot of that, and more to follow on that. That probably could be a whole nother podcast about Fulton County and what the federal government did and who was involved. That could probably be a whole nother podcast, to be honest with you. But that's a great point. I think more to follow on Fulton County, and I don't think I'm ready to speak on that because I don't know enough. But
it's still ongoing.
If true, that is interesting.
Yeah, there's more to come on that, so we may touch on that at a later time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you, I hope that the listeners listening in understand now a little bit more about the SAVE Act, because when I say media, I'm not even going to say mainstream media anymore, because it's not just mainstream media. It's social media. It's all over the place. Today, out there in the media, the things that are being said are trying to emotionally drive people, right? We talked about ICE 2 weeks ago, and the emotional drive of what's going on in Minnesota, right? I'm tired of emotions being involved. Emotions are important, but emotions can't be involved in decisions. People have to make decisions on clear conscience and evidence, clear evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, right? Stop letting your emotions get the best of you, right? It's like road rage, right? Somebody cuts you off and you get excited and go chase them down and pull them over. It's probably not going to bode well for you. So you should probably be the same way about things that are going on, right? In politics today. Stop
Yeah.
using emotion, start using logic, start doing the research, start researching the details yourself, and be educated. And I think a lot of people listening to our podcast are educated. But I think there's a lot of people that are easily influenced by things they see on social media, Jim.
Well, I'm not so much easily influenced as that I can get down a rabbit hole. You get a place or two that you find that you're researching and you're well into when you find, oh, this isn't right. So you don't know what's right and what's wrong and who's telling the truth or who's not. So you get to investigating and you get your head so full of stuff, you're just like, oh, I'm done. And then you're more likely to remember the last thing that was plugged in your head. Yeah, I've had that problem too. I don't know what's real and what's not real anymore. I mean, I thought the information age would be great. I think it's a hindrance.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, Hillary Clinton's once again saying that, misinformation, right? People should be penalized for misinformation. But what is misinformation? I don't know what's misinformation anymore, right? Is it stuff you don't like to hear? That's misinformation? I'm not quite sure, right? So
yeah, it would be interesting.
Go ahead.
I would say it would be interesting to have her list things as a lot of stock in her, but she's fun to listen to sometimes.
She is. She is. Well, I think we've covered the topic pretty well, Jim. Are we ready to get into our current events? Our first current event is going to dovetail right into everything we're talking about, right? So Virginia redistricting, right? I live in Virginia, so it's a big deal for me, right? So for those of you who are not tracking, and I'm sure everybody's tracking because on the national level, it's been a big deal. We have a Democratic governor, Democratic House of Delegates, and Democratic state representative, right? So it's Democratic all. So there's a bunch of things that the Democrats are doing in Virginia. They're flipping Virginia up on its head. I don't think this is what people signed up for. And I think even I think quite a few Democrats are probably not happy about what's going on. But one of the specific things that is going on is the change and they're redistricting Virginia to counteract what happened in Texas, right, before the midterms. So what's super interesting is that when the governor ran, she clearly stated she was against this type of thing going on. And yet here she is involved, right? She's probably going to sign this. The Virginia Supreme Court has already said that this redistricting is okay, right? It's going to allow the redistricting. And so, listen, I'm not okay with all this, right? I think this is crazy. And I'll say it across the board. We have to stop changing the voting districts to achieve an outcome, right? There are clear rules and laws that exist in place about voting districts, right? And we should follow those. And I think it should be an independent body that sets those districts, which is how Virginia's set up. But Virginia has decided, right, that this is the way they're going, right, to send a message. And so I'm not okay with this. Jim, what say you?
Well, a lot of this is like you said, is in reaction to Texas redistricting, and there's a whole lot of other stuff. And we're going back to illegal immigration on this too, because they think a lot of it's based on the fact that they're in the census, and it is affecting the districting, and they're trying to redistricting, and they got all this going on, and just a play to manipulate out of elections. And I mean, if you examine it and your population has changed so much, or things in your growth in your cities have changed, and it validates the redistricting, that's one thing. If you're doing it just because another state did it and you want to make up for what you lost nationally, yeah, that's not the way to play the game. That's not right at all.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And I think it was Indiana that they were looking at to changing their redistricting, and they voted down not to do it, right? I got to support that, right? Stop trying to change the outcome, right? Let it be whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some adjustments here and there because the population's growing both by the birth rate and by the influx of legal immigrants. Cities are growing, factories are closing, so small towns are dissipating. There's always changes. So there may be some cases where redistricting or adding a new district or whatever would be necessary, but to do it in retaliation to somebody else doing it, I mean, that just seems childish to me.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty. Next one, Jim. Nancy Guthrie.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks now she's been missing. And I can't get my head around this. Number one, I feel for the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try to imagine if that was my mother, right? And what the number one, the angst that the family's going through, right? Been 3 weeks. This lady requires medication. She's not getting the medication. We know there was blood on the doorstep that belongs to her, right? 84 years old. And yet still no concrete leads into who took her.
What would even be the motivation here? She's 84.
I can't get my head around it.
Did you see the video?
To me is also the sheriff's lack of willingness to share with the federal government on this. I don't understand. If our goal is to really get this lady back and figure out what's going on, I don't know why the sheriff is refusing to share information with the federal authorities.
Well, I wonder if it has anything to do with her daughter or some sort of revenge ploy or some sort of something, because her being a national, don't want to say celebrity, but a known newscaster. I can't imagine anything else being the cause. I mean, she's 84 years old. I don't want to say she's not. There's no leverage anywhere. Yeah. Did you see the video?
I just want to capture. We jumped on and we had a comment from Colin in there about the commission is not going away. It's temporary. I got it. It's temporary, Colin. But I'm against the what I'm going to call gerrymandering in any state, right? So I concur with you. The commission isn't going away. It's temporary. I got it. But I'm just not for what's going on, right? So I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt there, Jim.
Did you see the video they released the other day of the guys at the door in the masks?
Yeah. And that's why and I know the FBI and the county did these raids in this house and on this car together, but I just think more information's got to be shared to get resolution to this.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't make any sense. And 3 weeks and we've heard nothing about. We have heard no ransom demands. We've heard no. I mean, again, she's a nationally known news correspondent. I can't believe there's no relation there. Yeah, you're right, Ponytail. There's nothing. So how? I'm just kind of reaching here. I don't understand why we haven't heard anything at all.
No, I agree. All right, Jim, another controversial subject.
What we got?
Super Bowl halftime show. The competing halftime shows. Let's just talk about that. So here's the deal. It was funny. Let me just talk about what happened in my house, right? So we were all watching the Super Bowl together, right? And halftime comes. And of course, I wasn't going to watch Bad Bunny. Had nothing to do with the fact that he sings in Spanish. It's not that I'm racist. I just don't like the guy, and I don't like the fact that he hates America, right?
Halftime shows anyway.
He says saying things like, "Well, I'm going to sing in Spanish, so if you don't understand, you got 4 months to learn." Right? Okay. So I was going to watch the Turning Point USA. So I immediately, once the halftime came, I streamed from my phone to the phone, and everybody in the living room went forced, scattered to go watch a Bad Bunny, right? And I'm not mad at people for doing it. That's a great thing, is we all have choices, right? So
Yeah.
my house was clearly divided. I was unilaterally watching the Turning Point event, and the rest of the family was watching Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
How about you?
I never watched Super Bowl anyway. I never watched halftime shows. I mean, basically, in my opinion, and this is something we definitely agree on, and we've always disagreed on it. I think it's just horrible, lousy music, and that's what they've been doing for a long, long, long time. Where are the days of Prince, the Rolling Stones? Janet Jackson was even a good show. I mean, come on, we're getting all this computerized hip hop nonsense. Excuse me, I know you don't. I know you're a hip hop guy. I remember that. But where are all the good? And nobody had heard of Bad Bunny. And all of a sudden, everybody, he's the greatest thing. I'm like, really? You've never heard of him before this, but because he's doing a halftime show, now he's great. And the fact that the preaching unity and, America's one nation, indivisible, blah, 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 the whole pledge. And then he performs the show, America's biggest event, in a language that 90% of Americans don't speak. I'm guessing at that percentage, but you get the idea. This does not promote unity to me. And again, his comments on this and that, I couldn't care about, who he is or what his sexuality is. I couldn't care less. It doesn't have any effect on me. But one, I'd like him to bring back some decent halftime shows. And two, if you're going to produce, we've spent the last several years pandering in every aspect to the smallest majority of the population in every aspect. It's like, what happened to, you know what? Sing some songs in Spanish, some songs in English. I can deal with that. But to do it all in Spanish, I don't think it was because that's what I think that was intentional. That was an intentional kick in the pants. Yeah. That's exactly what that was. And these
we got a bunch of comments we need to catch up to. And
can you imagine
the chat? But we'll get to them in a second. But let me just get back to this whole thing. Number one, Roger Goodell is pandering to an international market, right? So the reason he picked Bad Bunny has nothing to do with the Americans. It has to do with the wider international market, right? So there's a lot of things that Bad Bunny, I read after he did, that were inappropriate during his show, and that'll all work itself out. And he even deleted, I guess, his Instagram account after because of all the negative publicity he got or something.
I don't doubt it.
But let me talk about the Turning Point USA event. I didn't think it was that good, Jim.
Yeah, and it went over. Either.
It went over.
Either, so
they were still singing when third quarter started, right? And so my point is there was nothing impressive about it. It was just an alternative event you could dial into, right? And watch, to be honest with you, right? And a lot of it was country music. And Jim, I'm into a lot of music, and I don't like country music, and a lot of it was country.
I don't either.
So. We got a lot of comments in the chat. One thing that Ponytail had said about Nancy Guthrie is if there's no proof of life, it makes it hard to pay a ransom. Agree with that. Kraft says better late than never, J-Dog. And then Ponytail said he cleaned up his lyrics for the show. There's still a lot of adult content that was necessarily needed. That's what I heard. Crafton says he's checked out on the NFL. I'm not checked out on the NFL, but I'm not checked out in all the politics that go behind it. Crafton, and he did not watch. And Colin said it was pre-recorded, and that's fair.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, so it was pre-recorded. So what? Yeah, I heard Bad Bunny was lip syncing too. So
yeah, well, the thing is, it's supposed to be America's biggest event. Everybody comes together. And first we have, two separate national anthems, which is flipping ridiculous to begin with. Now we have two separate halftimes. I mean, come on. What are we doing here?
No, we got to unify. We got to unify and get on the same sheet of music. I think this is a learning lesson for everyone. To be honest,
Why can't you have something like a show that's like comprises people from different genres, 3-4 different
Right.
genres together? And
100%.
I've been to enough music festivals with rap artists and hard rockers, metal guys, pop all together, and they have a great time on stage, man.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Not just Bad Bunny exclusive. Have Bad Bunny, somebody from country, somebody from rock, right? And then do it all. I agree. That's a great and Crafton.
And they have a great time.
Crafton said word. He's like down with your comment.
Yeah.
That's the way to go, Jim.
Musicians are musicians. They don't care about genre. They will get up there and perform with anybody and have a fantastic time.
Well, I tell you what, Jim, after the podcast today, I'm going to call Roger Goodell and tell him that we're going to start running his halftime show program, you and I.
All right.
All righty. Another, what normally is a very patriotic time, another controversial topic in many aspects, the Olympics. Jim, I'll let you get started.
Yeah, it's Olympics. My favorite Olympics. I like the winter. I didn't check the medal count before this. I meant to, but the thing that's getting me, and this has been that way for a while, and you've seen it in sports for a while now, back to Megan Rapinoe and some of those other ones. But now we got Olympic athletes trained all their lives, wearing American flag and American colors, USA across their chest, going to a foreign land, sitting there and bad mouthing the country that they're representing. First of all, no one's making you represent it. Second of all, why, if you hated somewhere, would you want to represent it? That doesn't make any sense to me. But, it goes back to the whole thing. I say this about entertainers as well. And to me, athletes are entertainers. I know what they're doing out there, but they're also entertainers. We want you to be entertained. And there are some celebrities to do this, but not many. But the thing is, why would you alienate half of your fan base in one statement? Why would you want to do that? Don't talk politics. Get out there and do what you do. I don't need to know how you feel about a subject. You don't need to know how I feel about a subject. But if you're going to go out there and represent a country you hate, I just don't make any sense. I can't get on board with you.
You're not there to share politics. So just like the actors and actresses in Hollywood that think we give a damn about what their opinions are. We don't give a rat's diddly squat what they think, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead and do your acting, make your money, shut up, and I'm going to the screen to watch you act but I don't care about what you got to tell me about anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And the only other thing that really stands up on my mind in the Olympics, I mean, the performances, all the young athletes doing this is great. Leslie Vaughn, early on, she broke that leg. And I don't know how many Olympics I can remember, but that's a shame.
She tore her ACL in the same leg a week before the Olympics, right? So her ACL was completely gone.
Yeah.
So she shouldn't have been out there racing in the first place. First of all, thank God she's okay. She had to have 3 surgeries to get it right.
So that's
right. And she's finally being released to go home. Thank God for that. Right. 41 years old on the slopes. That is no joke. Right. No joke at all.
No, that's awesome. Leslie, you're awesome.
Lindsay,
shame in your game at this point. Retired, take care of yourself. You've done a great job.
Yep. And somebody put the GOAT in there. And that we have a lot. I'm sorry we're not keeping up on all the comments. We don't get this many comments, right? So this is the first time we're just getting.
Remember the Dixie Chicks? Yes. When they spoke out about Bush, man, they plummeted fast.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot about them. Thank you. See, Crafton 22.
So there's been a lot of other drama in the Olympics. Look at what's going on in curling. With Canada supposedly cheating.
Yeah, did you see that?
Double touching the stones and then reporting.
First of all.
How about the ice dancing, where the Americans got the silver medal and they believe that the French judge, intentionally scored the Americans low so that the French could get the gold medal? All this drama in the Olympics. Let's take away the drama and let's just do the right thing, right?
Did you see the video of the curling? I mean, when he let it go, he took that finger and did a.
Yeah.
I don't understand curling to begin with because, I mean, if my overweight, out of shape, old ass can do it, it's not Olympic sport.
It's a pretty amazing sport. I've been watching it for several years, Jim. I obviously being married to a European and living in Europe for 15 years of my life, right? Obviously, it's a big deal. And, it's one of those sports that a lot of Americans don't know a lot about. But another one that Americans don't know a lot about is team handball. And Europe just had the team handball championships. If you haven't watched team handball, I highly encourage you to
Imagine that
Google team handball. It's basketball, soccer, and hockey put into one sport.
I just can't imagine shuffleboard with big rocks as an Olympic sport.
It's pretty incredible, right? It's a pretty incredible sport, curling.
But then if you think about it, I'm going to go skiing and then stop and shoot stuff.
Yeah.
So, hey.
Yeah.
If you enjoy, I've always said, if you find something you're passionate about, even if I think it's the stupidest thing in the world, if you're passionate about it, man, go for it. It makes you feel good. Hey, great. I may think it's stupid, but that don't mean anything for you.
Yeah. All righty. And again, we keep on talking about this last subject every week, Jim.
Yeah.
Right? The Epstein files. There's always new stuff coming out. How about these billionaires resigning, right?
Yeah, that's
the
crazy.
CEO of a logistics firm from the Emirates, United Arab Emirates, he resigns, right, as CEO of a logistics firm because of the Epstein files. How about the Goldman top lawyer departs amid revelations about
Goldman
her
Sachs? Absolutely.
Right?
Didn't they disavow Prince Andrew and a couple of them, those two? And
those pictures of Prince Andrew are so damning.
Mm-hmm.
So embarrassing to the royal family in England. It's sad.
Yeah, they've got no choice. They got to distance themselves from that.
Yep.
The whole thing with Pam Bondi, and she's under a lot of fire right now because of what she did. And I'm sorry, if you are on a government computer, on a government server, you should be maybe not tracked, but logged. And they've been tracking as soon as those were released. All these Congress people or government employees got on the computers and started searching them all, and they logged who was searching all these. Oh my God, that's just great.
So I think one of the things that's super important, we have to log who's accessing the files so that if stuff that's redacted and redacted for a valid reason, and that's a whole nother subject, whether stuff's being redacted for a valid reason. But if stuff that's being redacted gets released, I think it needs to be audited and logged who's accessing what. And then we got Audrey, who's stepping up and says, we know the odds of getting 60 Center Support to Save Act or ending the filibuster are very slim. Agreed. Very agreed.
It is. And that there's nothing worse than a filibuster. I don't even understand why the filibuster even exists. It doesn't make any sense to me, but you're absolutely right. I watched a bunch of stuff on that. And if it lays 50-50 like it looks like it's going to, they're going to filibuster it.
So I think the filibuster is an important part of the Senate. I think that's where we get the thing about the filibuster. I think is super important is it requires our senators to negotiate, right? Whereas when you're just focused on party lines, as it is in the House, you could ram things through. The filibuster has been there for so long, and it has been so important. And I think both sides of the aisle are afraid of getting rid of the filibuster because when the House, the Senate, and the president are all one party, they could ram things through that could be consequential to the other party. And I think everybody's afraid of that.
And that's what I've said in the past too. I mean, I don't like the way the Democrats are doing things right now. If you'd have talked to me 40 years ago, I wouldn't like the thing the Republicans were doing. But for one party to have control of everything for an extended period of time is kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jim, I think we've covered the gamut.
Yep.
I think we've gone through everything that we need to cover today.
It looks like it.
So are we? It seems like Sunday at 1:00 Eastern time, 12 Central time seems to be a good time. We had a good
much better time, yeah.
And people actually participating,
yeah,
right, which I really liked. I loved the fact, and I want to thank the listeners for number one watching, Number two, actually contributing in the chat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of you, we'd love to get on here. I mean, obviously there's some things you're passionate about that you want to talk to us about. So if you're listening in and you have a subject, or you want to jump on here and be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. We'd love to have you. Jim and I, we enjoy talking to each other, but we'd like to have another person on as well. So if you're interested, hey, drop us a line and let us know.
Yeah, there's a couple people I'm gonna start hitting up. Couple of them are on this list of comments today, but yeah, I'd like to grab a couple of them, get them on here. And I know one or two people. He popped on for a little bit. Opposing viewpoint. I've known him for a long time. Opposing viewpoint. Wouldn't mind someone with an opposing viewpoint on here for a couple of things.
Absolutely. So 2 weeks from today, we're going to do it again. So that's what the 1st of March.
Yep, sounds good.
March. Awesome. And so, Jim, there are a record number of politicians who are resigning from Congress. And 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about the midterms and the potential impact of these people resigning and all the things that potentially could impact the midterm elections, between ICE, between the redistricting, right? All the things that are going on, the SAVE Act, the fraud. And Jim and I are going to talk about how we think things are going to go for the midterm elections in November, looking at it today, right? 8 months out, how we think things are going to go and what do we think the impacts are. So I hope you'll join in. Hope you'll continue to listen. Please let your friends know that we're doing this. We love to have participation. We love to have people watch and listen. Just know that, if you know folks that want to watch it, all our videos are on YouTube. If you just Google the Signal Brothers on YouTube, we're there. Every single podcast we've done is there for you to watch. And on Facebook, they're on Facebook too, but Facebook does delete them after a certain amount of time. But we'd love to have more participation. Thanks, folks, for joining. And Jim, as always, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jim.
And we are
the Signal Brothers.
Thanks, folks, for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Peace.